Now, of course, that we have talked about some of these elements, and not just to summarize what we have actually been talking about. We have talked about the title, the author, and the author's names, and then the abstract, and the key words, then the body of the text where there is introduction, there is also the method, there's the results, and of course there's the discussion and conclusions. And then we talked about acknowledgements in an academic paper that you want to publish. After the number 7, which is acknowledgement, the last part which you need to be aware of and you need to know about as a researcher is relating to your references. And in the references, of course, here we have to highlight a point about references being last point in focus. In the references, of course, you need to mention all that's previously published books, journals, research, any kind of research by other scholars, because this must be mentioned not only in the body of the text in your article, but also needs to be referenced. So in other words, any information that you are citing in the body of the text must be recognized and acknowledged with a citation, of course, quotation marks at the beginning of the quote, if it's a direct quote, or paraphrased, if it is not directly taken from the scholar's work, and it must be included as a reference in this reference section, which is number 8. And of course, the format of the citation and the references varies. Each journal has got its own way, whether it's APA or MLA style. So that depends on their guide for authors. And students and scholars and researchers are advised to check each journal, because each journal is different. And it's got its own guide for audience. Now, lastly, I want to write a note here, or mention a note, that the student's new research, which is basically based on previously published work by scholars in the field. So this all previously published work needs to be mentioned in the references, and no reference that's mentioned in the actual paper is not to be missed or not included in the references. So everything needs to be included in the references, and that's why it's called references. Of course, there's a difference between references and bibliographies. Bibliography means that you mention books that you read while you're preparing the article, but may not have been cited, or you did not cite them, these references. That's why it's called bibliography. But if it is references, which is most of the journals prefer to have references or works cited, and so you need to mention them. So references means that they include, that this list of references should include all the scholars that are cited in the body of the text of the paper, and not to be missed at all. So that's what's important. In terms of the quality of the language